we're at an incredibly rare point in Disney Lorcana. Because of the first ban list coming in the halfway point of the Archazias Island metagame, all of a sudden everyone is up in the air and we don't actually know what the best deck is anymore. Which is really great because what it does is that it causes conversation. It causes these moments where not everyone knows exactly what the best deck will be to go into a tournament with. And that's great for pretty much everyone because really what it did was enable you to be creative again, bring what you like to play, and just enjoy Disney Lorcana for what it is and not feel forced necessarily to play a Sapphire deck, play a Ruby Sapphire, play a Sapphire Steel. While they have dominated the metagame over the last several weeks, it shouldn't still be the same. We should be a lot more decks should now be from here to here, much more closer to balanced. And that's really all we can hope for. So in today's video, we're going to be showcasing 13 different decks to start with in what we're calling the 7.1 metagame. Let's get into it. So as we can see here, the last several weeks have just been absolutely dominated by Sapphire Steel and Ruby Sapphire, kind of a teeter-totter as the weeks and everything developed over the course of the metagame. That is no more. Hiram is banned, Fortisphere is banned, and because of that, we get to safely move in and discuss all the other decks and the potential that comes from a brand new metagame. So let's start with something a bit different. This is a deck that did have some success early on. One of the Ink Invitationals and Sapphire Amethyst Midrange found a way into a top 8, and there was a couple of them being played throughout the day. But this is kind of a new thing now. Again, when Sapphire loses its best draw potential, a lot of the other decks have the ability to come up. Decks like Sapphire Amethyst and Sapphire Emerald, which were not really based around items and based around Hiram, they're much more likely to utilize them in other ways. They have the ability to really come back and be a force to be reckoned with and be kind of seen in the metagame. This list really is straightforward, but there are a couple new tricks to the trade. Understanding that Diablo is very likely to be one of the biggest threats to the metagame now, we have to kind of go back and play a couple old friends and be paired with a brand new one. Peter Pan Shadowfinder is the 3-cost, uninkable, 2-strength, 3 willpower rush character that grants the ability to evasive characters to also gain rush. So him himself has rush and evasive, so he can come into play on 3 and wipe out opposing Diablos. But what it also offers is evasive characters that gain rush. A card like Genie can come in right away and challenge. A card like Iago, the 4-cost, inkable, 4-strength, 6 willpower, 1 lore character with evasive and the keyword vanish, has the ability to come into play and do his thing right away. Peter Pan plus Iago is a ton of rush characters with very big willpowers. Normally, the biggest issue with Iago in the past is that he has a vanished word, which means you might put him into play and then never get to even challenge or quest with him. Peter Pan enables him to instantly come into play and become a 4/6, which virtually takes out everything on curve at the 4-cost range, which is a pretty big threat. And then not only is he doing that, he's very likely living to tell the tale. So now he is forcing card advantage from your opponent, which means it's not going to be simple to just simply get rid of him for a 1-for-1 aspect if we're able to pair him with Peter Pan Shadowfinder and get the most out of it. Aside from that, this deck is pretty much more the same. I choose the library over Finders Keepers. I think that you have enough 1-cost characters, you have enough characters in general that gain benefit from the library. It also grants you a couple ticks of lore here and there, which is a big deal. This deck does kind of have a problem closing out games without the big Elsa Spirit of Winter, which might be a card you just simply have to find room for. It's just more of a, hey, let's try it without it for now and see if we can win games and secure them without the necessary of the 8-cost uninkable Elsa. Dock Midrange has been a specialty of the Forbidden Mountain pretty much forever now since its existence into the metagame. This is a deck that we very much love and enjoy, and it's a deck that continues to evolve. I believe that you can build this deck pretty much at like a 50-card pace, and the last 10 cards can consistently change based on your metagame and your view of it and kind of what you expect. This weekend, I do expect a ton of Diablos. And when we're expecting a ton of Diablos, we need to find the answers for them. Insert Broom Aerial Cleaner, the 2-cost 2/3 with 1 willpower and the ability to have evasive on your turn. This is a perfect card to kind of answer the opposing Diablos. Helga is another phenomenal addition if you would like to take out Calhoun and play Helga, I can totally promote that line as well. You can really just set yourself up to have a two cost character, multiple 4 cost characters, multiple 5 cost characters that all trade with Diablo pretty well. And what it really does is it takes away their draw engine. So if you're able to take away Emerald Steel's draw engine and kind of keep them off their paces, then you can really have fun and do some really damaging things. All in all, Doc Midrange stays the same. I'm still Team Library in this deck, specifically when we have the 12 1-cost characters to boat with it. I think that is our key way to kind of grinding out and finishing games late against the more controlled decks. So from here and probably until forevermore, I will be Team Library. Hey, quick pop in. Where are we at? Are we enjoying this new concept that there is no best deck in Disney Lorcana? Is there a lot of choice? Do you think it's all doom and gloom with Emerald Steel discard? Are you worried? Let me know in the comments real quick. Hit that like button while you're at it, and let's get back into the decks. Another Amethyst Emerald deck here that gets a little bit more of an intrigue is, once again, Diablo. Amethyst Emerald Diablo with the discard package, having 11 Diablos in this list to shift onto, all the actions we want to, having the Prince John, and the discard package means that we have the dual threat. A lot of times in Disney Lorcana, the best decks and the most successful decks within it are decks that are designed to have 2 core factors of draw potential. Diablo and Prince John with the discard package enables both of those things. This is a deck that has been coming on more and more recently. It was attacking a very specific part of the metagame. The issue is with less Ruby Sapphire decks and less decks trying to prey on Ruby Sapphire decks, there is a bit of a worry that this deck might not be in the same position that it was. And right now, in a metagame with nothing but variety, position is everything. So this deck could be a bit of a worry in the early weeks as kind of the metagame is developing, while you're still trying to figure out all the cards that you need to complete your 60-card list. All in all, still a nice different way to play Diablo, gives people the creativity they want, and kind of allows players to say, hey, I understand Diablo is great, and this is how I'm going to play my Diablo. Ruby Amethyst also has the potential to make a true comeback to the metagame. How do we do that? What is the, kind of the shape of that? Well, Maui Shark is a really good card, and Maui Shark is phenomenal in Ruby Sapphire, of course, but this is the type of list that also really loves Maui Shark. We don't have, Sapphire Coil to make the true abuse of Sisu. There is a world where you can still build this deck and play the Sisus and play the Medusas and do all those things, but we believe that going with Shark and the evasive threats of, once again, Peter Pan Shadowfinder in a world with Diablo, this now kind of enables you to not be all in on Brawl as a removal. It gives you the option to have other cards. Again, you see Iago here. We see Maui Shark that also has evasive. Peter Pan is really doing a lot of work in this Ruby Amethyst deck that has even cards like Pegasus. So even if we have a slow game, if our opponent has a late Diablo, you might be able to see a Peter Pan come out late with Pegasus on turn 5. And this can enable 2 trades in your favor, taking out a smaller character with Peter Pan, and then taking out a Diablo with Pegasus, kind of leaving your Peter Pan on play to then turn Maui Shark into the aggressive rush threat that you really want him to be, like Vitalis Spear decks that are utilizing that in Ruby Sapphire. Having cards like Dragonfire just means you get to answer pretty much every card in the game however you want. And when you do that with the ability to get it back with Shark, you can kind of lock your opponent out of the game. I think this is another deck that definitely comes back in full color. It's something that I think many players will be excited about. I do expect to see a large uptick in numbers of Ruby Amethyst this coming weekend. Again, the 12 1-cost characters are sweet, and of course we have the library to boot. This is our second alternative draw condition in this deck. It's very difficult to kind of get away with it, but we have 4 friends, we have 4 libraries, and we have the Maui Shark recursion of actions, which can act in some ways as a kind of an alternative draw engine as well, specifically when we talk about getting like very specific removal back with Brawl, Dragonfire, and of course, when necessary, a Be Prepared. So all in all, I do expect good things from Ruby Amethyst moving forward. We'll see which of these Amethyst decks end up being the best Amethyst decks as the metagame continues. I did want to showcase a bit of the Doc Aggro version that we are currently working with as well. I still believe this deck is in quite good position, and what's more important about the aggro versions is that if you're not a mid-range player, if you don't like playing grindy games that go to Elsa Wars and things like that, then you can still have a position in the metagame and play to a little bit more of an aggressive style, which I think is important. Having the 14 1-cost characters in this list is big. Understanding we need 4 docs in this version because we have to be able to get him back and kind of repeat that with Fox. Snake is a card that has continuously seen almost no plays in all of the Amethyst decks we're showcasing. It feels like it's a very difficult card to play right now, and it's more of a later game card. If you want to fit some snakes in here, you can take out a few Cobras, maybe take out a White Rose as well, so you can kind of go down on those numbers to fit in a few snakes if you're really comfortable with the snake and repeat line for Doc and Pete. I don't doubt you for one moment. Those are still good cards. They're still good lines. It just feels that overall it's a card that I think I'm more not interested in right now because I want the board to continue to go wide. And the only time I really want to use Fox is when I'm getting a character off the board that's problematic on the draw, or when I'm trying to just like get in, get some nice damage on the table, bring back a Doc, bring back Pete to my hand. I don't need to do that every single turn now. I just need to do it a few times in the game when possible. So therefore, adding in that Fox, taking away the snakes, having a more wide board, also having a dual threat of library and fairy ship is just presenting lots of ways to your opponent that you can gain lore, and they just have to consistently interact. And a lot of this gameplay for this particular deck is about your opponent answering you, not necessarily you answering your opponent. So if you're just into the aggro style, this is definitely the deck that I would be playing week 1. Speaking of Amethyst Steel, Doc, it is our oldest and most loved guide that we put so much effort into. There were chapters basically going in weekly almost from even 7.0. And now we're in 7.1. We have another chapter going out today, if not tomorrow morning, basically whenever time I have to get edited to it. Melissa's been very upkeep with the Amethyst Steel guide. It's been a deck that she still loves. I am very much in love with this deck again. I think with the removal of High Rim, I am totally Team Doc. So we're going to be putting a lot more effort into this one. So it's definitely a guide to go and pick up. If you are a member of our support tier on Metafy, you actually get this guide for free. If you don't want to join the support tier, you can just pick up this guide for $10. It's a great way to help us, and it's a great way for you to get knowledge of kind of the story of Amethyst Steel Doc. We have every single chapter in that guide from October all the way till now. So definitely go check that out if you're looking to support us and if you're looking to get a little bit more knowledge on Amethyst Steel Doc. The Dogs. Churn Dogs is definitely a deck that has been one of the more profound lists in the metagame. Now we need to find kind of a new way and kind of what its position again is in this particular metagame. This list in particular is going to be a shout out to Colby. This is a list that he has really presented to us. Kind of just a bit of a different factor here in seeing that we have Mufasa in the list, seeing that we have Docs in the list, kind of just adding a little bit more pressure to the game. A turn 3 Doc into a turn 4 Mufasa can really lead to some crazy shenanigan things. You have very interesting cards that can flip off Mufasa. Having a Tramp flip off Mufasa on the draw or going second, very, very interesting. Rapunzel's great. Nani presents a nice bodyguard to this deck as well. So you can kind of set up that our turn 1, 1-drop, our turn 2, 1-drop, 1-drop, turn 3, Doc, maybe we hold. And then when we quest with Doc, we can put a 3/6 bodyguard into play that their opponent have to answer with, which protects all of our cards very, very well. Obviously, Sirius is a card that we want to play and interact, so we have the answers to Diablo along with Cloud Kicker. I still think Cricky is one of the more underrated cards in this deck. I think in general, Cricky is going to see play in a lot of Emerald decks, and it's going to be a focus of like, hey, this is the way that we are going to board wipe our opponents when necessary and kind of be able to play on the draw. All in all, this deck is a lot of fun, definitely different. If you're the kind of style you're into, this is definitely a way that I would consider playing it this weekend. Another way that we can build Diablo, of course, in this metagame is Emerald Amber Songs. This is a deck that won DLC Toronto. It's been a force to be reckoned with for portions of time within the metagame. And Tramp is really a fun and interactive card for this list to kind of create ways to always find the cards that you truly want in a given matchup. Having the ability to not have to be maxed out on Under the Sea or maxed out on cards like Cricky, it gives us the option to really flow through our deck and make choices that we like to and be comfortable with it. What I will say about this wonderful Tramp Songs list is although I think it's color, I think it's fun, I think it's off meta, I think it really infuriates your opponents from time to time because they just feel like they're helpless and so out of the game. A shifted Diablo into an Ursula plus a Bare Necessities can basically remove every single answer to Diablo that they can possibly have. Of course, if this is why we're seeing Steel decks play characters like Broom, play characters like Helga, and it can't prevent you from saving those, but any decks that are relying on cards like Fire the Cannons, Boom, or Songs to remove Diablo, you can truly end their game with that turn 2 play. So because of that, this is a really nice way to position yourself Diablo early. It's just a note that when you don't have those specific lines, your Diablo is really at kind of just an odds because you don't have a very good way to kind of protect him or prevent him from being banished. So while I think this deck is great and fun and different, and I love the Tramp, this might not be what I would consider the best Diablo deck, but hey, if you're looking to do something different, if this is kind of like a deck that you enjoyed in the past, then I think adding Tramp to it really goes a long way and just creates another layer of consistency. Oh, and by the way, he has 2 strength. You can use him back to your hand whenever you want and just replay him and do really fun and silly things and cycle through your deck to kind of mold your hand as best as you see fit. Amber Steel Songs, of course, gets a nice bump back into the metagame as well with the removal of the Pesky Hiram, which was a card that was so difficult to answer and kind of just be annoyed with. And really, they were able to just consistently remove all of your characters, keep you off the play, really just force you to pay 5 to play a whole new world rather than ever singing it. Now, without that consistency there for them, we have a way to kind of get back in and sing our songs more consistently, be in the game more often, and just really play to this strategy that we know and love. I think Penny is a really interesting character added to this deck because it's a 2-cost character that you can kind of play that doesn't get banished by Diablo because it can give itself resist 2. It also has the ability to give one of your other characters if we want to protect a Robin Hood as an example. A turn 1 Robin Hood into a turn 2 Penny enables Robin Hood to get resist 2, so it can't be instantly stormed away on the draw games by your opponents, with their Cinderellas, with their Bells, with their Diablo, and things like that, which means it enables you to have a better chance at a turn 3 shift Robin Hood, which I think can play really nice into the metagame. 6 willpower was already assured that is a very difficult thing to get around within Disney Lorcana. So in all the steel matchups, having a 6 willpower character that can challenge and gain 2 lore, an inkable basically Calhoun is a big deal, I think, in this metagame. So if we're able to protect our 1-cost Robin Hood and really get a shift Robin Hood Sheriff Nominee in play, we're going to feel pretty good about it. So I think this is a list that's going to make a resurgence as well. Deck that really hasn't done well at all, didn't even make top 16 in a lot of the most recent weeks. It's been really hard for players to kind of figure this one out. Bianca was a great addition to this deck. Troubadour, another great addition to this deck, kind of just double downing on what Resist 1 does for the format and how good that can be. So I still think that this deck has a lot of potential. It's just a matter of finding position within the metagame. And I think with the removal of Hiram, that position has certainly been found. But guess who is back? What I believe is the best Diablo deck. I think that it just has all the right tools. It has all the right ways to protect itself. Diablo here is just that good. Having the idea for Morph gives us the ability to shift in our own a Diablo when necessary, a Beast when necessary. It also is a double down for Pete, so we don't necessarily have to always rely on the first game's referee to get our Space Pirate out. We have the protection of I'm Still Here. I think that's a phenomenal card in the metagame right now. A lot of ways to remove Diablo early is through the Let the Storm Rage On and the Booms, the Fire the Cannons, all those cards are looking to get rid of Diablo before you can get the most use out of it. So turn 2 Diablo, shift, sing, I'm Still Here, grants you basically another 2 cards instantly. It's going to let your Diablo live a whole extra turn, which means gains you more lore. It's going to replace itself right away with I'm Still Here and just set yourself up for moving the game forward later on. Of course, having the code to protect as well. I think the note here of 3 Let the Storm Rage On is really just understanding that while the card is great, it's also bad because if everyone knows that you're playing the card, they kind of play around it, they kind of build around it, so it makes it a little less good. So freeing up one of those spots for an uninkable slot, I think, is a big deal. Also, you can see a lot of creativity here. If you want to go into a more refined list, you can take out some of the 3s and 4s and sure up your numbers. Again, if you want to play 4 Prince John, you want to play 4 Ursula, you can certainly do those things within the metagame. All in all, I do think that this is the deck. It might be the number 1 enemy this weekend. I think it's going to come out in high numbers, which means there's going to be people playing it, and there's going to be players playing decks that specifically are designed to beat it. So who are you going to be? Are you going to be the prey or the predator? That's where I'm at this weekend with Diablo. Ink Geyser has the potential to kind of make a return as well. This is a deck that we've been playing around with a bunch since it was revealed in early February, honestly. And it's a card that I think is very fun. I think it's a card that's very good and interesting, but it had a lot of problem kind of shearing up against so many other ramp decks in the format. And now that there are less ramp in the format, it has the ability for you to abuse the Ink Geyser quite a bit more. You being the ramp deck, I also want to note that this might be one of the only Fishbone Quill decks left aside from Sapphire Steel Wheel. I think that Fishbone Quill plus Clarabelle has always been a good combination. We've kind of been waiting for the reason to utilize it. With Ink Geyser, it's a big deal. You can very easily, set up a Clarabelle on 5, draw a bunch of cards if you want to, and then the very next turn we can play a Sal the Azurite Sea or a Fishbone Quill, and then play Ink Geyser, and then immediately ink twice with the Quill, with the Azurite Sea, and then sing a card like All Is Found with Clarabelle, put 2 more ink into the inkwell. So very quickly, you can all of a sudden just be back on 7 or 8 ink while your opponent is sitting there at 3. Big deal, big fun, big annoyance. Players are going to hate playing against this deck. If there's a way to make this deck truly meta, I think a lot of players are going to be very upset by getting Ink Geysered. Quick pitch in again here for the Metafy. Ultimate Guide has been updated every single week pretty much since the release of Archazias Island. And now we got a huge difference maker and dump of information because now we have to rethink the strategy moving forward into set championship. So if you're looking to get a little bit more, you're looking to get hit with information specifically after this weekend with all of our teammates going and playing in tournaments, having the information to come back, having the feedback to come back, the stories that are going to be there. The Ultimate Guide is kind of definitely where you want to do. So if you're looking to support us, the best way to do it is on Metafy. It helps us exponentially, and it gives you guys even more information about the metagame. So definitely check out the Ultimate Guide for Archazias Island. Let's keep going. Ruby Sapphire is not dead. Hiram was a nuisance. He was a giant problem. He was definitely the reason why this deck was above and beyond S tier. However, Hiram is gone, and we just move on. DKP won DLC Melbourne with this list. Not the exact list. Obviously, we didn't have Tamatoas then. Obviously, we had Hirams. But the truth is, and he has been saying this for months, Hiram is a card he only felt basically obligated to play to keep up with opposing mirrors. Now that we don't have it, now that they don't have it, he believes that this deck is going to shine. And I, for one, believe him. The addition here of just really an addition by subtraction, we get to not play Hiram, which means we just get to play 4 more good cards. Playing cards like Cusco, playing cards like Scar, just gives you a little bit more leeway and choice. Let It Go is a card that we can definitely increase if we want to, but all in all, this deck is just very straightforward. We're going to ramp, and then we're going to ramp again, and then we're going to start dropping bombs. We're going to force our opponents to have answers to Maui Shark. Maui Shark is the whole key to this deck, but having the ability to even have a card like Tamatoa, Happy as a Clam, enables us to just simply have a 5-cost character that reads draw 2 cards, which then read draw additional 2 cards. It kind of will help you sift through this deck. Again, 4 Develop Your Brains, 4 Vision of the Future, 4 How Far I'll Go, 4 Grandma Talas. We're consistently just sifting through our deck, piecing it together, and being really truly rewarding your play skill, knowing what cards you need in a given matchup. I do think this deck is going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be one of the more played decks for Ruby Sapphire moving forward into the metagame, and we'll see how this kind of plays out over the next several weeks. However, where would we be without items? That's right, Ruby Sapphire items won a Disney Lorcana challenge, and it has gotten nothing but more cards to play with. Tamatoa, Happy as a Clam, again, is the forefront of this concept, but we get to go back and play a card like the Queen Divider. We get Raya back, and our choice here at the Forbidden Mountain and our top 16 deck from North American Continentals featured the Prince John. The Prince John is the 4-cost inkable, 3 strength, 4 willpower, 1 lore, and the ability to exert this and put an item from your discard pile back into play. This is a phenomenal card to play in this deck. It also gives us a lot of freedom to kind of pick through and choose what we want. As you can see here, we have a plethora of different items. The Gold Coin, the Potion of Might, Ruby, Chromacon, the Plank, the Sword Released. So many different cards here that really interact, and I guarantee you almost all of these cards will be picked up by your opponent and read because they don't understand what they do. If you're looking to do something different, if you don't like the DKP style, I definitely suggest trying out RB items. I think it's going to have a lot of fun. I think it's going to really create a lot of interesting turns, a lot of big combo turns, and we don't even need to go to the extent of playing 8-cost Tamatoa and Lucky Dime. However, your opponent, on average, will always assume that that's what you're threatening the moment they see a Tamatoa 6 in this item build. And last but not least, the deck that got hit the hardest, Fortisphere and Hiram gone. Does it mean anything? No, I don't think so. We just get to play Oswald items. Oswald comes back, the Queen comes back, Sheriff of Nottingham hits the table. We just get to be a straightforward combo deck, forcing our opponent to basically answer all of our cards all the way up the curve and really just get away with playing the most cards for free and still interacting to that mindset. You can see here, this particular list does not have any Let the Storm Rage on because, again, we think it's a card that maybe it's okay, but the uninkable count against Emerald's decks that are protecting Diablo on the draw is not a card that we really want to interact with. We don't want to just give our opponent free cards. We're going to have to be able to find them and interact in other ways. But really what this does is that maybe in a world where Emerald Steel is not the most dominant, it's not 50% of the metagame, you can kind of just say, okay, you can have your Diablo, and what I'm going to do is race you and play to another level. This deck is not really drawing many cards off the top of the deck anymore, so you're not relying on Hiram, and you're not feeding the Diablo in any which way. You're actually just kind of putting items into play that aren't going to be interacted with by your opponent, and then you're setting up these big aggressive wins much faster than Emerald Steel can actually contend with. Emerald Steel does not have a good clock. It's not a fast clock at all. They don't have a great answer to any of these item-based builds, so you don't really care as much about Diablo if you just play your game, which is kind of a closer to a solitaire-esque game, by putting in threat after threat after threat. How does Emerald Steel get rid of a Sheriff of Nottingham that you played for free? Okay, sure, we don't talk about Bruno it, but the thing is that you played it for free. So you don't really lose much. And if you have other cards in your hand still, you might just be able to slam it back on the table for free again. So it's a pretty aggressive card in that matchup. Obviously, Tamatoa 8 is the same. They need to have We Don't Talk About Bruno for several of these cards and these threats in this deck. And by making them have that and making them always have these consistent answers, it makes it definitely more difficult for them to deal with everything. Also, having Belle and the Queen and Scrooge as stat sticks means that their Ursula 2 isn't their Ursula 3 isn't getting full value either, because the moment they turn it sideways, on average, you're going to have another character in play that can just turn around and get rid of it. So they're never going to get multiple cards out of it. You also, of course, can set up Strength of a Raging Fire turns to kind of get rid of them as well. So all in all, I think this deck is great. The one card that might be problematic in the switch could be necessary is that Fishbone Quill might not be perfect in this deck. Maybe a second Greatstone Dragon is a little bit better. Some of the other items you definitely can pick around and choose with and really have a little more choice and more flexibility. There's plenty of good options here. A card like Medal of Honor might even be a fun little addition as a combo way to kind of win the game even faster. And of course, Aerial Treasure Collector is always a card that you can consider as well. There you have it, guys. 13 brand new decks, because the final banishment of Hiram and Fortisphere has happened, and all it did was rejuvenate the creativity of the Disney Lorcana community. We now get to have conversations again about whether this deck is just good or not. We can really have those conversations. What's the best deck? What's the best cards? And before, we really couldn't have it. It was just Ruby Sapphire. It was just Sapphire Steel. There was not really a conversation to be had about it. Now we get to have that conversation, and I think that's the best and most important thing. So if you're looking forward to more of a conversation, hit this video right here. It's our stream from last night. It was a great chat. We had Mo Shaman on, who's a Worlds qualified player. If you're looking for something else, tomorrow we're going to be streaming a 59 player tournament, which is a 2K. Top prize is an Enchanted Elsa. Definitely can show in. Make sure you hit subscribe so you know when we go live tomorrow. Awesome cast coming and joining us tomorrow. All that details on our socials. Thank you guys so much for watching today. We look forward to covering the metagame leading up to set championships and beyond. If you haven't yet, hit like for me. Let me know in the comments what deck you're playing this weekend. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next video.